yearly games don't hold their value?
Especially fucking Madden.
Let's not talk about the retro market then, guys. See, we could go on for days. What is going on, guys? Welcome to the podcast. I'm Ben. That's Rick. We're having fun and adventures. I guarantee I pointed that way again, didn't I, you son of a...
You pointed at nothing on my screen.
Oh. We're going to name this podcast The Ones Who Points Fingers, But No One Receives.
It sounds like a prison sentence.
I was going to say, I think we're going to be streaming these podcasts on Pornhub from now on.
I'm down. I bet we could get a really good audience going there.
What is going on? Welcome to the podcast. I'm Ben. That's Rictock. We are going to be doing... Can I get through the intro, mother trucker?
Every time you point the wrong direction.
Close your eyes and pretend it's not happening, Rick.
Am I pointing at you right now?
No, but you're pointing at your hairline, which is gorgeous, by the way.
I'm getting like real Aragon vibes just from the hair. The rest of me is like a bloated Johnny Depp, but you know. I'm having a good time.
This is gonna be rough to edit.
I don't think so. Just copy and paste.
What is going on? So we are gotta get it all out. We are gonna be discussing remakes in the game industry, specifically one remake that was announced that we are both pretty excited about.
Tiger Woods PGA Tour.
We just call that Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto 4 adultery. Ooh, feels bad, man. Too soon. No, oh wait, if Tiger Woods isn't dead, I can say anything I want.
Yeah, that happened in like 2015. All right, it's been long enough. Oh gosh, I hope you guys are having as good time as I am.
I don't even know what I'm doing, but they are confirmed this time, remaking KOTOR.
Confirmed. KOTOR.
Jason Schreier is the one that leaked this information this time, and I actually find 100% anytime Jason Schreier talks about game industry, it's gonna be almost 95% credible. Jason Schreier worked at Kotaku for a long time, did a lot of investigative reporting behind Anthem and why Anthem's issues at launch and everything, he was pretty much the reason why anybody knew anything was wrong with Anthem at the time. So with this remake being confirmed, I very much believe that it's gonna happen. There's no way we're not gonna get a remake of KOTOR.
And it appears that LucasArts is not in charge of the remake. They're having a different company make it, but they actually did take license back, so they're actually having to approve the actual remake before they actually send it out, which is great because anytime LucasArts has their artistic views on a Star Wars game, it has been amazing and revolutionary in a way. Yeah,
no, 100%. The fact of KOTOR getting a remake, which is one very much fan favorite. When it comes to BioWare, and when people talk about BioWare being gods, KOTOR will always come to mind. KOTOR 2 was not BioWare, and people fail to realize that. It was Obsidian. They rushed the development, so a lot of complaints about KOTOR could be passed off towards Obsidian at the time, not BioWare. So when people think of the BioWare magic and why people were so hyped about Anthem and things like that, it all stems from KOTOR and Jade Empire.
Now, I do want to defend Obsidian in that aspect. I know I was just up-talking them, but the problem was during the year that it was coming out, it was a year of games for KOTOR 2. And what happened was LucasArts really needed to get the game out there for that time because they needed to compete with the other games coming out. And unfortunately, they had to cut a lot of the game out because of LucasArts' artistic pushing. So on one hand, yes, Obsidian did have to rush it, but it wasn't their fault they had to rush it. They were actually set to have an extra 6 months to a year to complete everything in the game, but unfortunately LucasArts came to them and cut that time very rapidly, and so they had to cut out levels.
Typically when you want to blame somebody for a game being rushed or anything, you don't blame the developers, blame the publishers and the people financing the game, because they have deadlines they need to make people happy. But KOTOR Remake, I feel, is well warranted, especially 20 years later. Like, as games get older, they don't hold up anymore, and remaking things for a newer audience, especially, like, think about it, most people that were born from, let's say, 2005 on have never played KOTOR,
and they're fools for it.
Most definitely. But like it's a game that, like, not a lot of people maybe played, or they understand BioWare from Mass Effect but didn't know BioWare from Jade Empire or Knights of the Old Republic. And I've noticed it as a trend. And I couldn't find the report before we went live. I was looking for it, but it was about 2014. They determined that 80% of people that will buy a next-gen console will sell their old consoles. Hence the reason why people don't play backwards compatible games, or why people don't play old games, because most people are selling their old stuff to buy the new stuff. And so, like, if you're not like me, where I keep everything still, whether or not it's 30 years old or yesterday old, like my Chinese dinner, I keep all my old stuff. I can play it whenever I want, but about 80%, which what it was reported in 2014, will not be playing old stuff.
I think the big thing on this one too is a lot of people didn't try it because there are other games out that were more popular that didn't age as well, but at the time they were more popular. So kind of the decision factor that dig into this one was this was the first game, or one of the first games out there ever made, where you got to choose your path. You were good, you were bad, and you got to build your character off that, and you got different perks for that. Where the game that came out literally the next year that kind of stole the spotlight on that was Fable, which I understand. Fable was an amazing game. It wasn't
the Molyneux effect.
Yeah.
When your game is known because of the developer or the creator, and there's a joke about you, that's not a good sign.
Let's see. I just want remakes of the Burger King games. God damn it.
Those games. Hold up, you got we can. Those games are actually worth some decent money. Not at GameStop, but they're worth some decent money. They're just very limited. Very limited games.
They're kind of like the original gold Pokemon cards that came out in, it was like 1999 or 2000 at Burger King. If you have a full set of those that are in good condition, you can sell those for a lot of money.
Yeah, it's quite weird because we all meme, as gamers, we all meme on the Burger King game. But, like, that game's quite popular still and has a very, very, very niche cult following.
I truly don't understand why, but it's there, so...
If you want to play Burger King and get a Whopper, go for it. What was it? Sneak King?
Yeah, Sneak King.
Sneak King. And then they had the racing one or whatever. They had, like, the 4 different games.
They tried to combat Mario Kart with this. It didn't work.
Sonic All-Stars is the only game that I ever felt, other than Crash Team Racing, that could compete with Mario Kart.
I mean, in a way, yeah, but anyway, for those of you who haven't played KOTOR 1 or 2, the storyline actually takes place 5,000 years before the events of, like, the Skywalker series. So this is actually kind of what led up to the storyline of the Jedi Council that you are all familiar with today. So in the first game, I'm not going to reveal who. I don't want to do teasers and stuff, even though the game is, or like I don't want to give you guys too much info, because if you decide to play it, I want your minds to be blown there. But you play as a character who kind of has a clouded history, and you go through the entire game kind of figuring that out, and also building your team to basically stop the evil. Now the cool thing is you can become the evil too, and take out the current bad guy to become the over bad guy. And then in the second game, you actually play as my favorite character in all the Star Wars, the Exile. Now, the Exile is badass because she not only did In my opinion, she's one of the first gray Jedis. She did what was right, not because the council told her to, but because it was the right thing to do.
Mhm.
And in the end, she cuts herself off from the Force. And in that game, you're exploring what that means for one to be a wound to the Force. And so it digs into a lot of Star Wars lore, a lot of Star Wars history that you don't know, especially for a lot of people who aren't into Star Wars that much, or they're like into the Skywalker series, but they don't like read the books or go that hard into it.
Never went behind the lore.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's as nerdy as I am, so I can't be mad about that.
Fair enough. Do you think that it needs a remake? Do you think remakes are needed in the game industry?
I do, but I don't think they're needed as much as they're going on right now. So, KOTOR 1 and 2 is definitely games that I've wanted remade, honestly, for over 15 years. You know, I've wanted these games actually redone, and I've wanted them basically brought up to the new standard of video games, because they were at that turning point. They came out on the original Xbox, not 360, just Xbox.
Yeah.
And so this was a time where they were coming out with all these different styles and everything like that, and where video games were kind of really hitting their stride. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of games that are getting remakes that I feel don't deserve it.
I can feel that, but like, do you think that we're getting too many remakes or remastered? Because like with remasters, that's the exact same game, just like polished HD graphics, HD audio, maybe a little bit of modernized controls or a little bit modernized menus, but it's still the exact same game. But remakes, remakes, I don't feel like we haven't got as much remakes.
Yeah, I feel like I think my big problem with the gaming industry right now is that there's in the last couple of years, how many original IPs have come out? You know, there's so many of them that are sequels, which are great. I'm totally down for sequels. But there's so many that are like the biggest game I can think of that isn't like the newest and most fresh idea for, or the couple of them have been Sony exclusive, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn. Those games right there were a new IP that came out with a new storyline, but they kind of followed that same traditional Sony
formula,
third person view, you know, that it's award winning, so why fix it, I guess, is what they're sticking with.
Don't change what ain't broken.
Yeah. And I'm glad you agree with me. That sheriff is, it does depend on the game.
Yeah, because I don't know, speaking of leaked remakes, that if you guys haven't heard, they're planning on remaking Last of Us.
So disappointed in that.
I don't know why they're planning on remaking The Last of Us. Like, I understand, and this is why I will defend remakes. Remaking a game from 1998, i.e. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 even, from 1997, 1998. Games have changed so much since then when it comes to story, when it comes to visual, audio, gameplay, mechanics, that those games getting a remake made sense. KOTOR getting a remake makes sense. Remaking a game that came out on a PS3 that got a remastered just makes no sense.
I'm gonna pause you right there, because One Step just said something, and I knew he was gonna be the one to do. So they did not already remake The Last of Us; they remastered The Last of Us.
No, they're talking about remaking it.
Yeah, so there's a big difference between remaking something and remastering it. So what came out for The Last of Us on the PlayStation 4 was the remaster, where they upgraded graphics, they cleaned up the mechanics, they basically made it into a better version of itself. Where a remake of the game is where they actually rewrite the game, they redo storylines, they keep the overall theme the same, but they change a lot up. So I think a lot of the Nintendo remakes are nice. I actually agree with you on that one.
For people, for your viewers that are watching, Last of Us Remake reportedly in development, and Days Gone 2 pitch was rejected. This was a recent event, so it's not like I'm talking about old things. This is literally like last week, posted the 9th of April 2021, so a few weeks ago. So it's not like we're talking about the remaster. We're talking about a reported remake.
So they want to basically rewrite something in The Last of Us and change the first Last of Us up somehow. I don't know what they could change, because the first Last of Us was outstanding. It was one of the only games that I sat down and I was like, I heard a lot about it. Everybody was talking. It was the talk of the town back when it was first, before it was came out and everything. And then it came out and I sat down to play it, and it was one of the few games, honestly, within the last 15 years that I sat down and I felt that magic, as I was playing through it.
Oh, yeah.
I felt every character had their place in it, and not only that, every character had a really amazing story. And I felt the game was honestly as close to perfect as you can get.
Yeah.
So why would they change that?
I think, in all honesty, the reason why remakes happen is to improve graphical fidelity and narrative fidelity that was not a standard of the time. Unfortunately, Last of Us came when Uncharted 2 made gameplay and narrative a standard. So like there's no need for a remake. It's not like 30-year-old game that needs a whole new code of paint, new voice lines, new dialogue. It doesn't need any of that to be viable today. But where KOTOR does, KOTOR needs to be modernized. It has some flaws with it that definitely show its age when it comes to how it plays and menu systems.
Yeah, well, I even today I still play KOTOR at least once a year, and there's still times that I'll be playing through and the game will glitch big time, and it's not something that's actually a glitch that happens kind of a one-off. It's kind of in the actual coding of the game.
Yeah, and they didn't patch games at that time like to fix those. If it launched with a bug, it launched with a bug. Period. And I think that's why, like, where a remake matters is things like that. Remastering something, you can patch through a remaster. They do it with the PS4 to PS5 upgrades, or the Xbox One versus the Xbox Series X upgrades. That's a patch through that you just download, and then it gives you the improved version of the game. It's a patch. Yeah.
And it's super easy. You just pump it through on the internet and call it a night.
Yeah. But like a game 30 years ago, like Resident Evil 2, how do you upgrade Resident Evil 2 from what it was to what Resident Evil 2 is now with the patch? You can't. It doesn't happen. How do you upgrade the voice lines? How do you change voice lines? When how do you change a key scene happening or a glitch? You can't. It's just there. And that's why I think remakes do matter, especially in the game industry. Like from a standpoint of like I said, like 2014, it was reported 80% of people will sell their old platforms to buy the new platform. You're not playing KOTOR. That was 20 years ago. No, nobody has that unless you buy it digitally, which is a remastered version, but it still has flaws. It still has some flaws.
Yeah, and KOTOR is a game that, especially on Steam, you've had to rely solely on individuals to go through and code different things and do patches. BioWare and Obsidian have done nothing with the game since then.
Yeah,
they cleaned them up and sent them out, and that was what they did. And then they sold the rights, so then that way they could be sold digitally online. Those are the only things that they've done with it since.
But like, do you think it would have been fine with just a remaster, like what we have on the Xbox One, digital version?
I think a remake is in line for these games, as long as they keep the original story the same, but they push through, because there was actually a lot of ideas and a lot of wants that was met with the original games because of the time period they were being made. There was actually 3 extra levels in KOTOR 2 that they wanted to put in there, including a space station with a store in it that had your luxury items and your crazy items that was not in the game. You can get some of the maps and stuff like that open, but you have to, yet again, go through the people who broke the code down and created a mod for it. And then KOTOR 1, same thing. They had a lot more in that one, and they were able to complete it much more, but there were items and incomplete quests because they weren't able to actually finish it in time. So I think a remake is in line so they can add all the extra that they want.
But what about the Resident Evil or the Final Fantasy VII remake, where they kind of have reinvented the story? Like, it still follows the core concepts, but they've kind of changed key aspects of the story to make it more modern, but also change things in lore or the like timelines that have changed and it's been expanded upon to where it kind of meets up with today's games. are you okay with that? If KOTOR kind of like expands more to like tie in with some of the new universe stuff that they've added with Disney's takeover.
Uh, on one hand, yes. On the other hand, no. Because yet again, Disney, they kind of slaughtered the Star Wars lore when they first acquired Star Wars. And there was a lot of lore that they cut out, which upsets me because of the fact that Star Wars was so. I mean, I've been studying Star Wars lore since I was a kid. I would read books and then watch YouTube videos back when YouTube was still a new thing with barely any videos on it.
Right.
But I also don't mind that because on the other hand too, there is still a lot of with this stuff that has not changed. The biggest change for this is that they have officially gotten rid of the Gray Jedi. So that is not a thing. That was never like a definite yes or no with the Exile. It was just something that I perceived with the way that they took their actions. But I think it would be worth it, especially because a lot of the people in LucasArts care about Star Wars so much. And there's still people who were there back when it was written originally, still working on some of this lore and still working on this stuff. That I think as long as they continue to follow the same formula, I think it'll be okay.
But like if they were to expand upon it like even more, you wouldn't be okay with that? Like if they were to add some of the like Mandalorian lore that was added with the Mandalorian stuff, like
they definitely like should expand on that. They definitely should.
Like if they expand upon the narrative a little bit more, explain a little bit more, that was kind of like for lack of a better word, meant for true fans. Like there's stuff that's in lore and in story that are meant for like diehard true fans. Like you guys play Resident Evil will miss something that I will pick up. Just like if you were to play KOTOR, I would miss something like that you would pick up because it's meant for like those like nods towards OG fans. Are you okay if they were to expand upon that a little bit?
I would be okay as long as they kept it original, because during this time in the Star Wars universe, this is when the Mandalorians were at their peak. This is when Mandalorians were basically like the Mandalorian that you guys know on Disney Plus. He is a bitch. I will say that right now compared
100%.
to actual Mandalorians.
100%.
Actual Mandalorians back in the day, they studied their enemy, and the entire reason they went out and fought was so then that way they could actually go out and conquer. It wasn't because they needed the space. It wasn't to survive. They wanted to conquer to prove that they were the strongest. And everything in their society was around combat. And so they did everything from studying. And what happened was they were actually destroying the Republic hardcore. But then the Jedi jumped in and the Mandalorians were like, okay, we finally have some combat. Like, these guys are messing us up.
Oh, yeah.
But they also did so many studies and stuff like that. And so Jedis, they have the reflexes to block bullets. So the Mandalorians got rid of lasers when they were fighting Jedis and came out with standard guns like we have. Because when a Jedi would hit a bullet with their lightsaber, it would turn to lava and start splashing on the Jedis.
Yeah.
And so they came out, it was a very strong group with really good guerrilla warfare tactics. If they keep the games with that original lore with the Mandalorians, I will be so happy.
But like if they expanded upon it, like stuff that wasn't in the game, but they expanded upon it, you'd be totally okay with that.
Yeah, 100%. As long as they kept it original to what it should be.
And I think that's why remakes hit for me like that. Like Resident Evil 2 remake. Just for an example, Kendo in the original Resident Evil 2 was just a pawn shop guy, locks the door, bad voice lines, tells you, oh man, the whole town's gone crazy, and then zombies break through the wall and kill him. That's it. That's your entire dealing with Kendo. You can kill the zombies, grab the shotgun, and leave. Where they expanded upon where he has his daughter. His daughter's been infected. His shop's been destroyed. He's just trying to survive. Tells Leon to just get out and go. And expands upon a character in a very subtle way. It's still like a 5-minute cutscene. But it's expanded upon so much that gives more depth to a character that was kind of the joke for all of Resident Evil fans. You know what I mean? I was okay with that expansion on somebody that, for me personally, I know because I love the game, but is expanded upon even further.
Yeah, and Dash Sheriff has a good point. He says, if it's a game I used to love, having it on the same console that I currently play, like all my other games on, is reason enough to get it for them.
100%.
And I agree with that. If KOTOR comes out and it's on my PC or on my PlayStation 5, you're damn right I'm going to get that.
Oh, yeah. I have all the God of Wars on PS2 and PS3.
And it's nice. I mean, they do subtle things in those upgrades, you know? Like if you look at The Last of Us, it's hard to tell when you're playing one at a time. But if you put the PlayStation 3 version up at the same time as the PlayStation 4 version, the PlayStation 4 version looks so much better. Like it's a crazy difference, and that's only a couple years apart at that point in time.
Oh yeah.
And so like that was a really cool upgrade they did. So those were games that I was totally down for. But there are some games that are being remastered or remade that I truly don't think deserve it or need it. Control.
Well, they did the Game of the Year edition, so that one's passable. But even still, Game of the Year edition is close enough because it comes with all the DLC. It's no different than a remaster.
Yeah, there's a lot of games out there. Like, I'll say this, and I know that a lot of people are gonna agree with me. They really need to stop with Skyrim. Okay? I love Skyrim. I have put thousands of hours into Skyrim, but they keep remastering it over and over for new consoles. Yeah. And at this point, it's become just a cash cow. That is just frustrating for me.
It's 100% business, though. It's the most marketable because it's the most new player friendly. And I hate saying that, but anybody that's played an Elder Scrolls game knows that Skyrim is very streamlined for casual audiences as well as the hardcore player, which makes it very accessible. But you think about it, that game's come out on every platform, remaster, Game of the Year, Deluxe Edition, Special Edition, more DLC edition since 2011. Then there's Final Fantasies in this world, it feels like. And they're on 15 numerically. And
that's the thing. And like Final Fantasy, the original, I actually agree, even though I'm not the biggest fan, Final Fantasy VII, that deserved a remake. Because yet again, they didn't have the ability to do everything they wanted back in the day because technology wasn't quite there. And the game, how many discs did that game have originally?
3 discs.
Yeah. And that one wasn't even like a big one. That was like a...
Nope.
I mean, one of my favorite games of all times, LA Noire.
2 discs.
2 discs on the 360.
But 1 disc on the PS3.
Yep.
Thank God for Blu-ray.
That's Blu-ray difference there. And so Mass Effect is another one. Even the remastered version on Blu-ray still has 3 discs.
Yeah. Well, and they're self-contained games. But like that's another thing. Like I'm excited for remasters. Because like Mass Effect didn't come out long ago. I was actually just talking about this not that long ago. Play Gears of War 1 now versus Gears 5. Color has changed, but the controls are pretty much the same. The cover-based shooting's the same. The enemies are pretty much the same. Not a lot has changed. So like Gears of War 1 being remastered today wouldn't change much. They did a remaster and it didn't change, but it still graphically was good, played really well. They've changed cutscenes and stuff, but it's not horrible. But going back to like the 90s and even early 2000s, games were very different back then.
Well, the whole reason that they do remasters and remakes is they know their biggest audience, number one, obviously kids, but the kids aren't introduced to it unless their parents are into it. And people know that their biggest audience are people born between 1985 generally up to the early 2000s, because that's when video gaming really started taking off. That's when home consoles started to become the norm, you know? I remember it was kind of weird in the early 2000s to not have at least a Nintendo 64, you know? And so that was kind of the way that it went back then, and that was how I escaped from school. That's how I escaped when I was super stressed, was Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie. You know, these games were like my childhood. And so the companies know that as soon as they say, hey guys, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time remake, that 26-year-old me, 27-year-old me, however old I am, is going to be jumping for joy. I mean, I literally stayed up all night last night so I could enjoy a new Pokemon Snap, because I wanted to feel like I was back in 1999, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that, even still, like, the games have changed, like, mechanically and everything. Like, you go back and play Breath of the Wild and play Ocarina of Time. It's night and day, a completely different game. Night and day, completely different.
And the evolutions are subtle, and that's one thing I like about a game coming out over years. But yet again, that goes back to my original point of I really love sequels and I love those things.
Mhm.
But I would really like to see some new IPs coming, which I'm not seeing a crazy amount of.
I feel like the new IPs have kind of gone more indie nowadays. Most
Yeah.
definitely, like Hades and things like that, like people are gushing about, is an indie game or a smaller game, smaller development.
Am I a fan of the Pokemon remakes? I personally am, because Nintendo has not let me down thus far with any of the Pokemon remakes. Going back to even like Fire Red.
Nintendo let me down with Cardboard.
I agree
They
with that.
canceled that too. Just FYI, they stopped production on the cardboard that people buy.
I will give it to them. That was a damn good marketing ploy.
Nintendo knows their audience though. Nintendo does not have to remake anything or anything. They just need to release one new Pokemon game 1 year, or a new Legend of Zelda game 1 year, or a new Mario game 1 year, and that's it. And they've made their money there that for the entire year. Nintendo is the only company that is profitable enough where, and I'm not gonna like lie, you know, good on them for flexing that, you know, out, but they said we can literally stop making video games, shut down completely, and still have enough money to pay our employees for the next 30 years. Name another company that can say that.
And this was in 2013. They've grown even more since then.
Nintendo knows what they're doing, but Nintendo on the side of innovation when it comes to stories and games is very behind. When it comes to narrative style, when it comes to even technical style, Nintendo plays on their own field. And Nintendo will always play on their own field.
Yeah, and Nintendo, I will give it to Nintendo, their quality assurance on their games is harsh compared to other games. If y'all remember back, I want to say it was 2014, there was a Star Fox game set to release, and they went through their quality assurance testing, and Nintendo said, this sucks, and they just canceled the game.
Mm-hmm.
And straight up said, we apologize, but the game was terrible, and we're not going to release garbage.
I don't remember if it was, I know Star Fox, like, they can't postpone, because we got the Star Fox, Wii U or whatever, I can't remember the exact title of it, but that one came out. I don't know if it was Star Fox, but I remember like when that happened. But like,
yeah.
But you got to remember, back in the 90s or like the 80s, anybody can make a video game. Purina Dog Chow made video games, guys. If you didn't know that, that came out on the Atari. Quality assurance was a big thing that was not happening. Nintendo came back after the video game crash, which everybody remembers is 1983. The video game crash, when video games kind of went to the wayside, people quit trusting them, and Nintendo stepped in and came out with new games. But they also had the Nintendo quality assurance, the Nintendo chip. It had to be approved 100% by Nintendo to be on that game, on that console, and if it was not approved, it did not come out. And it had that gold seal on all the boxes, Nintendo certified, and that meant so much to people at that time, that Nintendo still has that that standard to this day of the quality. And sorry,
go ahead. I was just gonna go through the comments here that I have, because like Dash Sheriff says their core gameplay though is ridiculously good, which I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they're behind on the storyline, and I do not expect them to come out with a game as emotionally involved or as something like The Last of Us or something like Ghost of Tsushima, because they took their time to really study human behavior, and they took their time to find something that would get people emotionally involved. But you're right, at the core, their gameplay is better than most other games, and they know that. They know that their storylines are going to be okay, but their gameplay has got to knock it out of the park, which I agree, they completely do.
If anybody thinks I'm talking shit, there's a gold cartridge right there, still playable, of Legend of Zelda. There's all my Switch games right there. My Switch is right next to me. I'm not talking shit on Nintendo as an anti-Nintendo. I think like Nintendo does great. I was just stating that like they play on their own field. Like if you're talking about Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo is in their own field. They're not even competing. Yeah. They're just doing what they do and what they do best. So, but like I was not talking shit for the sakes of being an asshole. You know what I mean? I was just expressing that.
Yeah, and when I dig into Nintendo, the way I always describe it to people is Nintendo's the top dog, and I think they always will be when it comes to video gaming. They do not compete, like Ben said, because they don't need to. They own the market, they have their quality assurance, and at the end of the day, you can make a game that's the greatest game in the history of the world. They got Pokemon, they got Mario, you know? And so they don't worry about that, where it's always the console race between Xbox and PlayStation.
But wouldn't that say that, like, when we think about remakes, graphics matter then at that point? You know what I mean? Because you think about it, PlayStation and Sony and Microsoft have consistently like changed graphical space, where that you don't get, like, that you can get with a remake, like with the Resident Evil engine, with Resident Evil 2 remake and stuff. So wouldn't that say that, like, graphically we have changed so much that remakes are warranted at that point?
In a way, yes. I think it depends on the title too. Like, so one of my favorite games of all times.
I'm doing good.
We'll dig into two of my favorite games of all times. Number one is called The Longest Journey. I doubt anybody here has played it or seen it. I think Ben might, because he knows obscure things from 80,000 years ago.
I am the historian on video games for some reason. I just know them all because I've played pretty much them all.
And the other game would be Elder Scrolls Morrowind. Probably one of my favorite games of all times that I could... me and my brother have the best memories of sitting down and not even having waypoints, where he had a map on his wall, posted like my posters are behind me, that we would literally take a pen and write down things on. We had this giant map that took up half a wall that we wrote everything on. I felt like fucking Lewis and Clark, right?
You were Lewis, though, right?
Obviously. I
It
always
was the
wanted
hair.
you to be there.
Oh, I could have been there. I could have been your Clark.
You could have been my Sacagawea. But
I mean, yeah, I would have been okay with that.
the problem is that me personally, and I might be the only one, I don't want those games to be remade. I don't want them to be remastered. I like them the way that they are, and I think the reason why is because they have that classic feel, and I think that's what makes them kind of timeless in my eyes.
So like a balance. We need a balance of games that deserve a remake, i.e. like Resident Evil 2 and 3 or Final Fantasy 7, like really old games that really show their wear and tear. But games that aren't as old or don't show as much wear and tear, you think just leave them be.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, they're going to do remakes and that just based entirely off of the fact of what's going to sell. Because a lot of people forget that video game industries are businesses.
Oh yeah, they don't care what we think.
Yeah,
because they care about what we buy. And I'm not like that's nothing against the game industry. They are 100% a business. But at the end of the day, we all buy the games for $60 and then complain. But they have already made $15 million on your Star Wars Battlefront 1. They don't need to do anything else. They've already made their money.
And Dash Sheriff says that you were absolutely talking shit, so...
Oh, never. Ajax does bring up a good point, though. Yeah, RE3 remake was so perfect. It was short, and I'm gonna go a little history rant on this. People hated Resident Evil 3 remake because they paid $60 for a 6-hour campaign, 4-hour campaign if you're fast enough at it. The problem that people don't realize is Resident Evil 3 was supposed to be a spin-off. It was not a main game, it was a spin-off. But because Sony had the agreement with Capcom to make 3 numerical games on the PlayStation, Resident Evil Code Veronica for the GameCube, which is technically Resident Evil 3, got Code Veronica, and Resident Evil Nemesis, which was a spin-off DLC, which you would call a DLC nowadays, was titled Resident Evil Nemesis 3 Nemesis. So for me buying it at $60, I knew exactly what it was priced for. like because I knew what I was getting out of it, because I'm just getting an expansion of what was originally there. They did expand upon it. I wish they would have kept things. They changed a lot of that game that for me as a true fan was like, why don't I get to go through the clock tower? But it was still a worth remaking because of the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Now, I am 100%. I always want what's fair, and obviously I would love these games for free. But I'm also 100% for supporting the art in video games. I'm not the type of person. Okay, I'm gonna talk to somebody who's I know is here. I'm not the type of person to buy a game, play it, love it, and then quickly return it. I just wanted to stare at the screen there for a second so they knew I was talking to them. If I buy a game and I enjoy it, I'm gonna stick with it. And I think the biggest problem is nowadays is that people they want these remakes or they want these remasters, and they're getting these older games, and they forget that back in the day, you don't judge a game based off how many days it took you to beat it. You judge a game based off of how many hours it took you to beat it. And one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion, is Journey. You can beat that whole game in 4.5 hours. But it's amazing.
It didn't release at a $60 price point.
But it's still when it released, it was 40, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing I've heard that we've talked about this before on the podcast. The argument of $1 per hour. If I pay $60 for a game, I should get at least 60 hours of gameplay. Is a lot of people's thought process.
And I still strongly disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that, I compare it to entertainment quality. And my biggest thing is like, if I go to the movies, if I'm super excited for the movie, even if I don't buy treats or snacks or something like that, or I'm one of those people who goes to the dollar store beforehand and buys it all and sneaks it in, I'm still spending $15 for me to get into the movie. And that's just for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So usually when I go to the movie, I'll get like my sour Skittles, a soda, and then I'll get the movie ticket, and movie prices are crazy. So I'll end up spending $40.
Yeah.
And so $40 for 2 hours of entertainment, and people are okay with that when they go to. But when it comes to a video game, I want 100+ hours of gameplay, or I'm not paying $60 for this. I disagree with.
Do you think we've been trained that though? Because every game that was ever released since even like the 90s was new, bigger, better graphics, better scale, better map, bigger, more multiplayer, more everything got like multiplayer added to it because it made the game bigger.
I think in the last 20 years, the passion for video gaming on the creator side has lowered. And what I mean by that is they at the end of the day, these people before were making games to share an art style, to share what they were feeling, or share a story that they had in mind. And nowadays they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it on a corporate level. So the passion is not some person who is really excited about this game and has this idea for this hero that they've always envisioned, and this person is somebody they created and look up to, and they want to share that with people. And nowadays we have games like that have that same hero versus villain, but there's 68 people who are working on the same game trying to tell the same story. And so the passion is down, and I think that has a big role in that.
To me, I think I'm on the other side point. I don't think the passion's gone, but the way games are made and designed is a 100% monetary value. And when you have a boss at any job telling you to do your job, and that's what you're paid for, you might have passion for what you still designed, but at the end of the day, there's other people paying for you to make what you're making, and if they don't get what they want, you're fired. So I personally think in a lot of aspects that would not be the developers, but as much publishers. Well,
yeah, and what I mean by that is 100% what you said. I'm for me, when I play video games, like especially for the first time, I like to dig into everything. I like to take my time and dig in. Death Sheriff actually just said the same thing. But there's also times that I just like to enjoy the story for what it is. I love storylines, and I love sitting down and watching symbolism play out right in front of me. And the best example I can think of is Ghost of Tsushima. Was he right or wrong for making the choices that he did through the game? Was he?
Don't spoil it, because I'm still going through it.
yeah, but like that's the big story. That's the big thing is like, and that's something you should know. I mean, it was in the trailers.
No, I know. I was just thinking.
Basically, Jin is going through the whole game, and he's going against the samurai code by being a stealthy ninja rather than a upfront samurai. But through the whole game, he's doing this for his people. And I think that's like, I don't know, it's one of those games that I dug into very deeply, and I loved that symbolism, and I love the way they portrayed it. But also at the end of the day, the passion was there, and you're right. I may have misworded it. The passion is there with the creators, but in the end, the people who are paying for the game, I bet they don't even play games. I bet they're they're large corporations or people with lots of money who just want to make more money.
I think this is the perfect standpoint. Anthem, the big CEO, I can't remember exactly who it was, wanted Flight. The demo that we saw at E3 was 100% the demo that was shown to that guy. It was just a pre-rendered demo of what they thought the game would be, and they put Flight back in, and everything was like, that flying's cool, that will sell, publish. That was the deciding factor of how Anthem would play. Not what they created, not what they could do. 100% some CEO in the background was like, that flying shit looks dope, send it through. Doesn't matter if it worked or not, they didn't care, just do it. And that was a year before, or that was like a couple months before it was announced at E3.
Yeah, and I think that's the other issue we're going to run into with video games is these people who are deciding what games are being made aren't even video game fans most of the time.
No, but it makes money. It makes them money, and that's what they like. But like, do you think that happens with the remakes? Do you think the reason why we get these remakes is because financially it's smart?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at Blizzard right now. Diablo 2 is being remade.
True. And Warcraft 3 was completely lied about on what we got for it versus what was advertised as what it was going to be as a remaster versus what we got.
Yeah, and it's perfect timing. So they're remaking this game to drive hype for the Diablo 4 that's coming out within the next couple of years.
1 year.
1 year now.
Eventually 1 year will come out.
Yeah. I honestly expect it to be announced at BlizzCon this year. And it'll probably be the big title. I bet Overwatch comes out this next summer, and then after that will be
Overwatch is 2022 for sure. 100%, okay. I can promise you that. Overwatch 2 will not come out this year. They've already stated that.
They're going to do some big news for it, and it's going to be a new mobile game.
That was leaked. that they're doing an Overwatch mobile style game.
I'm just making fun of
I know,
but
I'm not even joking. That was leaked that they're doing an Overwatch mobile style game. But I mean, it works. League of Legends just did it.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate League.
100%. We won't see Diablo 3 for 3 more years minimum. Diablo 4, correction.
Diablo
4 for 3 more years minimum. I mean, Blizzard takes their time with their games, and I think Blizzard has the same thing though. Like they have quality, but they also have corporate greed as much as everybody else.
And we're gonna see how that plays out, because I think a big part of their corporate greed was Activision, and Activision and Blizzard have since split.
Kotick. I'm not naming no CEO that laid off 900 people but pocketed $2.5 billion as a profit with a $200 million bonus. I'm not naming names, Bobby Kotick. That would not be very professional of me to call out Bobby Kotick on how not to run companies.
I think that's why Blizzard had so many issues. And I mean, I can guarantee it can be proven, was that they were coming out with these games and their top developers who had been with the company were forced into retirement. And so these people who have years of experience, years of training to leave to others, they're just gone, forced to retire.
I will mobile games make me mad. You're not wrong, Squeakers. I can see that. I will hearken a story, and this is a personal story, and you can take my word for value. There was a gentleman that came into GameStop. I'm gonna leave the company he worked for and everything anonymous for his own thing, because the company's still around. But he told me when everybody was mad about Kojima getting fired from Konami, and everybody's like, that's some bull crap, how dare Konami do this, yada yada yada. I was asking him, and I was like, does this happen in the game industry? And he said every time, all the time. That he's like, I worked on a game that was very, very popular and still is very popular in the 90s. And as soon as the game was finished, here's your package, see ya, we're gone. Go do whatever else you want. It happens 24/7, but because the news made it more obvious, like more noticeable, then it kind of became a thing like, oh, we should make Kojima out to be this martyr. But like the same thing happens in the game industry 24/7. He just happened to be the most prominent guy for it to happen to. And that's kind of crazy. Like, and I think, like, you know, going back on like remakes and remasters, kind of the same thing. It's what can we do to fill in content the easiest. It's easier to do a remaster and a remake, or you know, to do the remaster versus the remake. So let's do the remaster and we'll fill that in while we're still developing for 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, Diablo 4 or whatever, you know. Let's just upgrade the textures on it. We'll do this to fill in that gap.
Yeah, and I mean that's the truth. And then something else that I absolutely despise when it comes to remakes or remasters, mostly remakes, is when they split it up into parts. And one of your favorite Square Enixes does this quite often. And so yeah, they created this game.
To be fair, and I'm gonna argue that one though. They expanded upon the Midgard scene. They added things that weren't there in the original game to flesh out more story and things like that. They split it up into 3 games to be the 3 parts versus the 3 discs, because the 3 discs was each different sections. So they are doing it as a way of expanding upon the universe that was already there to begin with the 3 discs by releasing it as an episodic remake.
I completely understand that.
I get it.
But my argument on this one is how much is each of those going to be?
And that's $60 each.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. I don't like it. I paid a lot more than $60 because I had to get the collector's edition because I'm a hoe.
And that's the thing, is that you're paying $60 each. Now, granted, they did add more to it,
and they're doing free DLC. That comes out. Unfortunately, you have to be on the PS5 for that free DLC,
but was it worth it to you? And don't say this as a fanboy. Say this
okay. So I am always the exception to the rule because I feel that there is a fair price for any game, no matter how bad that game is. A game could be worth $2. Fuse could be worth 3 cents.
That's Chance's favorite game.
Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, for a perfect example. I spent $60 for that game. That game is so not Resident Evil, so bad. I think the game's definitely worth $1. And so, like, for me personally, playing Final Fantasy VII Remake with expanded lore, expanded universe, expanded missions, expanded everything for $60 was 100% worth it. As a remake, I'm okay with paying $120, $180 by the time all the discs versions come out. I'm okay with it. But I have also spent $180 on Uncharted, $180 on Overwatch, $180 on Max Payne. Like, to me, there's no difference than buying games for collector's purposes. I'm just getting 3 full expanded discs for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you on, like, in a way, I just don't.
I feel
like if you're gonna create something, have a complete idea.
Get it. I totally get you. I agree.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I'm the exception to the rule.
And there's other games out there that they added so much more and they did so much more with it, and they still only charge for an additional bit for it, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Like one of my favorite games that came out with basically a remake. I mean, it was more of a DLC addition to it, but it was massive. Was Persona 5?
Mm-hmm.
They came out with a Royal Edition, and I'm not saying this as a fanboy. The Persona 5 Royal Edition had about an extra 70 hours of gameplay on it.
Mm-hmm.
I gladly spent the $60 to get it.
But that's also the other thing. You're paying, if you buy all 4 editions, if you include Strikers, a Persona, you're spending $180. There is a full-fledged game with a full story, open and close, minus the secret bosses. Like, I understand Final Fantasy fans' frustration. There is a full game, start to finish, 30 hours to 60 hours on Final Fantasy VII. It's no different than any full-fledged game that would come out now. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's the fact of that we already know we know the general story. Mm-hmm. We know what's going to happen, and we know all that. And maybe it's the fact that it did already come out before is what is bothering me so much about it. And maybe if this was some like a new game that they were creating and they did it in, 1, 2, and 3, like they are doing, it would be better. But the fact that it's a remake of the game is what is super frustrating to me.
Hey Rick, not to throw any shade. How much are you playing for Mass Effect Remastered?
Mass Effect Remastered. Well, I paying $6 for it.
If you trade in a bunch of stuff for it. I'm not saying like, I mean, I get it. We can justify it. Everybody will justify their purchase, whether good or bad. Everybody will.
Oh yeah, I'll admit I'm an idiot. I bought multiple copies of Skyrim and I bought multiple copies of Mass Effect.
Oh yeah,
and I'll fully admit that.
But like, so like we can always justify our purchase. But like to me, like I bought in remasters, I bought in remakes. If I know what I'm getting with the game, I'm okay with it. Like the remake of KOTOR, I know what I'm getting. I'm okay with buying it. Period. They could completely change the story, and you're no longer Darth Revan, and I wouldn't care. I am okay with it.
Spoilers.
All right, if you guys haven't played a game from 20 years ago, you guys were never gonna play it. Enjoy the remake.
18 years.
but like you know what I mean. Like for me, like if I know what I'm getting into with the game, Uncharted 4, I'm always okay. I was okay with paying $180 for it because I knew what I was getting, and I'm a huge fan. Would I do that with every game? Hell no. Resident Evil
Sure.
Resident Evil 8, I wanted to pay $180 for the game, but I'm paying $60. No, $70 because I got to get the deluxe edition. But like, because I know what I'm getting with it, I know what I'm purchasing.
Maybe that's what it comes down to then, is that remakes are just based entirely off the individual.
Off the individual purchase.
And at the end of the day, even if I despise the fact that they keep remaking games instead of creating new games, that in the end it's going to stick around until people stop buying them.
Oh yeah, we vote with our wallets. And like, we could all be mad about Mass Effect Remastered. Why are they always remastering the games? But when that game sells 10 million copies because you bought it and all your friends bought it and everybody bought it, and you wonder why everybody keeps remastering the games. Not saying that, like, you gotta vote with your wallet. If I don't like something in a game, I've waited on games. I've waited for price drops.
Donkey Kong 64 does not need a remaster/remake.
No, Donkey Kong 64 could totally get a remaster remake.
No,
hey, it has a bug in the game that completely breaks it if you don't have the Rumble Pack.
Just freaking play Country Returns, okay? The same
if you don't have the expansion drive, the game's completely broken. Remake Donkey Kong 64.
Are we gonna start a new campaign online?
Make Nintendo great again. But like I think so. Like at the end of the day, we'll buy the remakes and the remasters that we feel are justifiable based off of our own history. And there's not a whole lot that will change with it. As long as they keep remastering and remaking games, we will continue to purchase them based off of what we enjoy.
Now my last question on this is, when is enough enough? Because the reason why I ask is they had some really disappointing news at Nintendo this year. And then they came out and they wrote that we are planning on bringing, for the anniversary of Legend of Zelda this year, we are planning on bringing multiple games to the Switch. Isn't it enough? Even though I'm a huge fan of Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, haven't these already been done to death?
They have, but 80% of people will sell their old platform to buy the new one. I have Xenoblade Chronicles remastered on the Wii U, or on the Switch. Came out on the Wii, then they remastered it for the 3DS, and I bought it for the 3DS, and I bought it for the Switch. I will buy them because I want them, but the price point.
One dash sheriff.
No, you're good. The price point to me is a big selling point. I got the Mario All-Stars physically for $60. That was a limited run for a year, which I think was bullshit, but like only for a year you can buy it physically for that. And I was okay with it because I know that I'm getting a better version or a better experience with my more modern console. are my more modern platform. KOTOR, I own KOTOR on PC. I own an original copy, and I own it digitally on my Xbox One. I'm okay with it. Like, I don't mind how many times I've had to buy the game, because each game has been an improvement in some way, shape, or form over the other, or has been on the platform that I religiously play at this time.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm in the same boat. I think that my biggest frustration with remakes overall is the fact that we're just not seeing anything crazy or new. We're not seeing anything revolutionary with gaming, and I think it's because they're stuck in this rut of remaking everything or remastering it.
Remake or remaster what was good, and then you don't have to take a risk on a new IP. Just keep revolutionizing on what you already have.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's frustrating for me as somebody who plays games, is that, granted, I love a lot of the remakes, and I do love a lot of the remasters, but at the end of the day, I've been playing the same games now for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. I mean, there's obviously games I'm always going to go back to, and there's always going to be games that I'm excited for that may hit me, and I just might get the hankering to play through. I mean, recently I just restarted Skyrim again. But at the end of the day, I don't need to buy another copy of Skyrim. Maybe you guys should stop focusing on that and really just start working on Elder Scrolls 6, but we're not going to talk about how upset I am about that.
But, like, we did get a new IP with Fallout 76, and look how bad that was. You know what I mean? Like, they tried something new. Not, like, it's an established universe, but you know what I mean? It was a completely new game from the ground up.
Yeah, I think the problem was that they mismarketed that entirely.
Yeah, they should have advertised every single bug and said Bethesda.
And they also shouldn't have told people that it isn't an online game at E3.
Todd Howard was not in his right mind ever whenever they talk about games.
When they announced that one, he's like, this game you can play with your friends, but it's not required to be online. It is an MMO.
Oh, and that's the thing. Outriders is the same thing. It's required to be online, period. If that's once the servers are done, you're done with that game.
Yep.
They'll remake Outriders special edition for that PS6, and then everybody will buy it.
I disagree. I think they're going to just come out with Outriders 2.
I hope not. Well, they better make it better. They better grind out those meat and potatoes.
So, on one hand, I will give it to, because what's the company? People Can Fly.
People Can Fly.
Yeah, they're newer at this. I mean, they haven't made anything on this scale for their entire time.
Gears 4? Fortnite? What do you mean? Bulletstorm? Bulletstorm? You're telling me they haven't made a full-fledged game?
No, nothing on this scale. All right, you're talking Gears 4?
Or no, Gears Judgment. My bad. Sorry, that was a misquote. Don't quote me on that. Gears Judgment.
That game is nothing. Okay.
All I'm saying is People Can Fly have a track record. They're not like some new company that deserve. They butchered Gears of War Judgment. Gears Judgment was Operation Raccoon City, was Ajax's comment, which is 100% true. And that was People Can Fly. Bulletstorm is great. But it's also the same game that nobody played and went down to $2 real fast.
I have a hard time with Gears, though. Unpopular opinion, I actually hate Gears.
No, I get it. But People Can Fly. Like, it's like I look at it as I can't say that they're new to this, because they're not. They worked on Fortnite.
Okay, yeah. Ooh.
They helped work on a lot of stuff, you know what I mean?
I don't know. When it comes to Fortnite, there's nothing impressive about that game.
150 million people would disagree, but
they can disagree with me.
And their, $500 million a year annual revenue can disagree.
They can disagree.
No, I get you.
They can make all the money in the world, but
I'm just being facetious.
Shit in a bag, it would still be shit in a bag, all right?
I'm just being facetious at this point. But put heart and soul into a new IP. And a new IP is fun, and a new IP can be fun. But I think that we have to have a good balance between the new IP. Like, if I bought Outriders as my sole game for the rest of the year to play, I'd be heavily disappointed, and I would have nothing but remakes at that point to play and remasters to play. Until then.
I think at the end of the day, we need to dig into I think overall the biggest problem is the quick get the game made and out now, and people are so just impatient for video games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, I'm impatient. I know I am,
Mm-hmm.
but I am honestly one of those people that I would much rather wait an extra. I would much rather wait a year or two for them to create a good game than just pump something out.
Gotta hit that deadline.
Exactly. And I think that's the nice thing about remakes or remasters is that the work's already been laid out. Like the foundation's there. So they just got to build on that.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, like I said, Final Fantasy VII is completely narrative, like expanded. They've even changed some of the lore. That's what people are mad about. They've changed some of the established story. Resident Evil 2 did the same thing, and Resident Evil 3 changed some of the established story. For people like me that already knew it, to have a newer experience. And I was okay with that. I'm okay with the change. Like it doesn't bother me at all. Like remake something, put heart and soul into it. But we can definitely do. We could definitely have a balance in the force. I can't remember the last time I was excited for a game to come out. Ajax.
Yeah,
I can feel that. I guess. I mean, I get excited for everything.
I'm not going to lie to you. My time at GameStop kind of destroyed me on that. But now that I'm getting away from it, I am finding myself more excited because I'm not talking about the games 24/7.
When your job was literally to sell every video game, no matter how bad it was. Evolve.
Fuse, Ajax.
No matter how bad it was, when that was your job, it definitely can kill the passion for gaming.
Well, the thing is that what killed it for me was that I would finally find a good game that I was excited for, and I'd latch onto it, and then I would spend a year and a half just chatting, just talking about the same game over and over. And by the time Assassin's Creed 4 came out, I was like, fuck it, we get to play with Blackbeard, whatever.
Defiance! R.I.P.
That
Defiance.
show was so badass.
I think the moral of the story is to wrap it all up is remasters are great. Remakes are great as long as they're done right. And as long as they're done with healthy new IPs and healthy sequels that come out while those remasters and remakes are coming out as well. Would you say that that's kind of where we're at?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a wrong or a right answer here. And I think that it's just personal opinion. And truthfully, if there's a remake or a remaster you don't want, at the end of the day, like you said earlier, vote with your wallet. Don't buy it. But most people are going to buy it anyway.
Buy it and then complain about it on Reddit for 12 hours. That's it for the podcast, guys. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben. This is Rick. If you guys missed us live, we do this on Twitch. Come by, say hi. I'll link everybody's down below in the description panel things and YouTube space. But we do this live on Twitch. If you guys ever want to just catch us live, join the conversation, you guys are more than welcome to. And if you guys ever want to watch us just here on YouTube, you're more than welcome to. I will have links to all of us in somewhere on a page here, there, everywhere. DMCA. But I'll have links in the description and everywhere. Thank you guys so much for watching.